folks, my name is Stephanie and thank you for joining me today. I'm really excited to talk today about something that's been affecting me lately, which is writer's block. You may have heard of it. I know that there are a lot of YouTubers out there who have done videos on writer's block, on tips and tricks for combating it. I am gonna do a little bit of that here as well. But I wanted to start off by just sort of deconstructing the idea of writer's block, of what it is to me. I think a lot of times when I just use the phrase I'm blocked or I'm having writer's block colloquially in conversation, it can mean any number of things. Sometimes it means I'm not feeling the motivation to write, right? Sometimes it means I'm feeling a lot of self-doubt, and so I am constantly undercutting myself and sort of curtailing my efforts to write at every point, and it's just the blank white screen of death, right? Here in this moment, I'm not experiencing either of those things. I'm actually really motivated to write, and I feel really good about what I've been writing lately, and I think that this is a story that, the world will benefit from, and I'm excited to tell it. But I'm still feeling this block right here. And this is this kind of pure writer's block. It doesn't have anything to do with motivation. It doesn't have anything to do with self-doubt that I want to talk about today, that I think comes from, your creative well is a little bit low, shall we say. So what happened to me this week is that I had a really great writing day on Wednesday. Like, I wrote a ton of words in the morning, had to go out for some appointments and do various things in the afternoon, came back, did a bunch of research and started outlining some new things, then had a writer's group in the evening and wrote a little bit more. And then on Thursday, I was just really tapped out. I was still really motivated to write, but I sat down, with plenty of time and all my writing tools at hand, and just nothing would come out. Okay, so I'm blocked. What am I gonna do? Admit defeat? No, absolutely not. So I want to talk about 3 different paths that I have identified that I'm taking, that I'm actually right now in the process of taking. I'm sort of on step 2 out of these 3, and how I'm using them to help combat that essential writer's block of just not having the words, right? We can talk about motivation separately, we can talk about self-doubt and confidence separately, but this is really just about when the words aren't coming. Okay, so thing 1 that you can do, and thing 1 that I did, in fact, when I noticed that the words weren't coming, right? Push yourself. You can do that by setting aside a certain amount of time that you need to write for, or a certain number of words, or you can push yourself to write continuously without stopping. So a couple of techniques that I know many people use. 1, writing sprints. I know Vivian Reese, who's one of my top author tubers, has talked a lot about using 25-minute writing sprints, and that really works for her. The 25-minute idea is so that you can then take a 5-minute break, and then you could complete 2 within an hour, but it allows your brain a dedicated moment to step out of the concentration so that you can be even more focused and more productive during that time when you are in the writing session. But let's say you don't have 25 minutes, or 25 minutes seems like a lot for you right now because you're really just struggling to get words on the page. You can try using the 10-minute rule, which is to say, sit down at your desk or on your couch, I don't care, I'm not judging, or wherever you write, and set a timer for 10 minutes, go at it as hard as you can for 10 minutes. If after 10 minutes the words are still not coming, you can get up and leave. As long as you know that you have tried, you've put in the effort, you have taken that step to sit down and write for the day. Sometimes, if you've written for 10 minutes, you will be able to overcome that block through sheer force of will. Another way to push through writer's block is to play hot potato with your pen or your computer keys and your fingers. So I remember doing this a lot in school, and to be honest with you, I hated it, because I do think that there is some value in thinking through the words that you're putting down on the page as you put them down. But on the other hand, writing something is better than writing nothing, because you can always A, revise that something to make it stronger, and B, that something that you write, even if it doesn't seem initially connected to your story or your manuscript, might eventually lead you to inspiration. So one way to do that is just to sit down and free write. You can use that in a couple of ways. Maybe it's you sit down, you are playing hot potato with your pen, and this is where your teacher, if you're in school like me, would tell you, you just have to keep writing. I don't want to see your pen stop. If you don't know what to write, then you write, I don't know what to write, right? And so you just keep writing that until something else comes to you. And if it's 10 minutes of I don't know what to write, then whatever, at the end of that 10 minutes, you don't look at yourself and go, oh, I was such a terrible writer today. You look at yourself and go, wow, I really wasn't feeling this, and I pushed through it anyway, and that's pretty great. You could also use that writing time to journal or to write about things that are more non-fictional, things that have to do with your real life, whether that's things that are around you or inner emotional things that are going on. I think that sometimes this lack of words can come from having something emotional that we need to work through. And even if that's not exactly where the lack of words is coming from, I think that accessing our emotions, being in touch with what's going on inside of us, having that awareness of the internal and the external world can make us better writers and really deepen the emotional craft of what we're doing in our writing. And the third thing that you can do if you're free writing is to start with a predetermined phrase. You can go look in a book and come up with half of any sentence and decide that that's going to be the beginning of your free write, and you have to complete it, right? So doing that will take away the issue of not knowing what to write about. It will take away the blank page because you literally already have something on the page. If you don't want to write about something that's that specific, I always recommend starting with the phrase, today I noticed, ... right? Because it forces you to think about what has happened over the course of that day and something that you might have observed that otherwise might just sort of fly out of your brain and you don't even give it a second thought. With these things as well, it doesn't have to be beautiful, amazing prose. It doesn't even have to be complete sentences. Today I noticed rain, the sidewalk, grass. This is also where prompts come into play. So let's say your own story is not providing those words for you. You might want to write something completely new. There are 1,000 million bajillion prompts you can find on the internet, but you can also get books of them. There's this adorable one that's called The Writer's Block, and it literally comes in like a cube, and it says The Writer's Block over it, and it's like 700 prompts or ideas or something, and some of them are text and some of them are just, one word, and some of them are paragraphs, and then others are photographs and things like that, so you can use images to inspire you as well. The other thing that I always recommend doing is just mess around in a new genre. If you are not feeling fiction right now, just try and write a poem, try and write a play, just see what it would feel like to write this scene in a new way so that you sort of get a new perspective on it. The second big thing you can do is find inspiration. So this is where you might want to have a chat with a friend about what you're feeling, and you just sort of talk through your issues or what you're struggling with right now. I don't know about you, but I have a couple of friends, in particular that one friend who I always go to, and they have just the perfect things to say, and sometimes it's not even about what they say, it's just about them listening to me and hearing like what's going on with me, and it tends to make me feel better, and I tend to be able to move forward with whatever project I'm working on and try to get myself out of that rut. This might also be a good moment for you to take a look at your outline, if you have one. If you don't, it might be a good moment for you to start thinking seriously about having one, or at least having some type of skeleton or headlights based outline, and I can talk about those techniques in another video if you're interested in hearing more about my various philosophies on outlining. But if you do have an outline, go back to that and ask yourself what's not working? Is there something that is tripping you up, that is preventing you from moving forward in the plot and in the scenes? And sometimes it's not plot-based. Sometimes it's, you need to know more about this character or this setting or this particular magical or technological piece of your story if you're writing something that is in the science fiction fantasy world, which I love. So make sure that you are digging into those things as well. Even if you're not finding what you think is a plot hole or a lack of character development, there's always more character development you can do, right? There's always other things you can do with your settings. Add to those character backstories, those character sheets, whatever you do. Write a scene from their point of view, even if they're not the point of view character, because all of those things mean that you are making progress towards your manuscript and your story, even if that's not something that's going to go in the final draft of the manuscript. And then, of course, you should read. Reading is a great way to find inspiration. Now, you can just go to your bookshelf and grab your next TBR and dive in, but there are two specific things that I like to do that I think can help combat writer's block specifically. I said specifically twice. 1, go to your very favorite book. Hopefully this is a book that you've read multiple times. Hopefully you've read it as a writer, looking for the craft issues that it uses to rope you in so well as a reader. One of the things that I like to do is go through and read a book the first time just as a reader, just for pleasure, and then the next time go through and really look for those craft elements and dig in. So what I would do is grab one of your favorites, find one of your favorite sections, one that draws you in, and just start copying it down word for word, literally into a notebook or onto your computer, whatever works best for you. And from there, take that tone, take that momentum of the writing that inspires you and move towards your own story. So you're not going to be putting their words in your story, of course, but you're just using it as a springboard and a place to get inspiration. You're also using it to get into a new rhythm of writing that might be very similar to your own or very different from your own style of writing, your own narrative voice. Second thing that I like to do is take a book that you hate or maybe take something, if you can't think of a book that you hate off the top of your head, maybe you don't keep books that you hate on your bookshelf, that's fine, but take something that's in a genre you normally don't read, normally don't write, and try to read that book and then, for lack of a better word, fix it, change it, right? So if it's just a different genre, what can you learn from that genre that you can put into your own writing, or how could you alter that book to make it a genre that you're more comfortable writing in? If it's a book that you really hate, or even if it's a book that you kind of like, it's a fun read, but there are points where you don't think that the prose is as strong as it could be, I think it's a great exercise to go back in and ask yourself, okay, well, if I were going to revise this book, how would I do that, right? And you can do a sort of literal revision, or you can take those thoughts about what you might need to add to the book, what you might need to take away, and rewrite the scenes in a new way so that it becomes your own. There is nothing new under the sun. We have all written everything before, and so, free yourself up. When you are out of ideas, steal them from somewhere else. This is not plagiarism. I am not encouraging plagiarism. In this category of finding inspiration are also other things that are outside of reading and writing. Something like going to a museum and using a painting as inspiration. You don't have to go all the way to a museum. You can look at some images online for inspiration, but seeing the real thing up close, if you do have a museum that is accessible to you and affordable, is a great way to go about that. Another thing, which is what I'm doing right now, is of course to talk to people about it. And of course right now I'm making a YouTube video, so I am channeling the frustration that I am feeling around my writing into something productive, talking it out, really reflecting on what I've done so far and where I can go with this process. And I don't know. I can let you know if this helps me in the end or not. I'm hoping that it will, right? So I'm kind of in the middle of this process. But if this doesn't help me, accessing my creativity in a new way, looking to other places for inspiration. Then I'm moving on to step 3, which is just let it go. This is the moment where sometimes you have to accept that you just can't write now. You are not a machine, you are a human being. And, you can do all of the work in the world to try and figure out what it is that is preventing you from writing. But there's no manual for human beings. You can't go in and say, well, gear X is broken and it's connected to gear Y, and so that's what's preventing the words from coming out. Because again, you're not a machine. So sometimes you're just gonna have to let it go. You're gonna have to accept it, move on with your life, do something else that is productive. I know a lot of people will talk about doing something like going and having a shower, having a bath and relaxing, going for a walk or a run, doing some cleaning, doing some dishes, maybe cook something. And I think when people talk about those things as giving them inspiration, it's also because they're taking their mind off of the subject. They're interacting with the world in a new way that frees up new portions of the mind to think, to breathe a little bit. And that is what creativity is all about. Not all brainstorming and not all of the writing work is going to be active work that you can push yourself to do. Some of it is passive, some of it is subconscious, some of it is just receiving. And so if you really can't write in this moment, then choose a different tactic. If you have a big to-do list, maybe do some productive things that will make you feel positive about the impact that you've made on your life, even though you're not writing. And if you don't have a big to-do list, or sometimes even if you do, honestly, feel free to just take a night out for yourself, right? That can sometimes mean recharging and watching Netflix. But remember that self-care isn't just tuning out. Sometimes it's tuning in. So again, those things like getting a little bit active, listening to some music, taking a shower, painting your toenails. Painting my toenails is something that really helps me in terms of self-care. I never paint my fingernails because they always chip on the computer or whatever, and I'm just not high maintenance enough to care. But I paint my toenails because it's something really specific and small that I can just focus on, and it's also really easy. I think it's the same reason why people love those adult coloring books now. So I don't know, go do an adult coloring book. And come back to the writing when you're ready to come back to the writing. Just trust that, the next day you'll get up, you'll try a writing sprint, you'll read some, and if those things don't work, just trust. Okay, that is all I have for you today. This video might be a bit long, but hopefully very comprehensive. Thanks for joining me. Again, my name is Stephanie. I'm a multi-genre writer with a background in playwriting, and I'm also an educator. So I will be posting more writing-related videos here in order to share my passions for writing and learning and teaching, 3 of my top things, with you. So if there's anything that you'd like to see me talk about, please let me know in the comments below. And also, if you have tips for beating writer's block that I didn't cover in this video, please do let me know, because obviously I need them.